Hi guys. Welcome to our channel. So today I'm going to take you through this introduction to Python tutorial, and I would say you've made a very good choice of wanting to learn Python. And you'll ask why Python? So basically Python is a programming language that does literally everything that you would look for in a programming language, like, it does everything from data science, machine learning, software development, web development, or anything along those lines, Python can do for you. Okay, so without wasting much of your time, I will be taking you through the basics of Python, what you basically need to know as you get into Python. Alright, so basically I will assume you have probably installed Python onto your machine. And maybe you have an IDE that you'll be using to write your code. Or maybe you can use the online ones. So maybe just in case you don't have Python, so you can easily download Python from the internet web page. So if you go into your browser and type your python.org, you will come to this page, go to downloads. Here you can download the latest version of Python, and then you can as well choose an IDE of your choice. So as for this tutorial, I will be using PyCharm. So PyCharm is quite a good IDE. That's the one I use. But you can choose any IDE that suits you. Or maybe you can use like the online interpreters. They also do quite well. Okay, so what is it that we need to start to know about Python? Alright, so yeah, first of all, we are going to need to know about variables. So what is it that we call variables here? And, so a variable is a name that refers to value stored in a computer. So you can use variables to store information as well as to manipulate information. Alright. So to assign a value to a variable, we're just saying use the equal sign in Python. So maybe what I will be doing here, I'll be toggling through this presentation in my Python interpreter and showing you how we do it in Python and running some basic commands so that you can have an appreciation and so that you can follow easily. Maybe it will be best if you do it following what I'll be doing here on your PC as well. That way you get to appreciate it better and you get to learn faster. Okay, so let's look at the variables. Yeah. So this is my PyCharm IDE here. So it is quite a good view. Here I have the script that I have already written, so I'll just be using that script art to show you like the basics that we look at here in Python. So this is the section where we write like the scripts. So the IDE, the good part about the IDE is that you can write your Python code and store it. Right. Rather than just writing your commands in the console, but you can as well write the commands in the console and they will run. You will be writing them and running them at the same time. Okay, another important thing that you need to know using Python is about the packages. So basically there are a lot of packages that come with Python, but you will need to install the packages in order for you to use the packages. So you'll find out like there are some commands that will not work. And some functions that will not work if you have not installed some packages. So, you will need to know what package is needed to do something, for example like to use the data sets or to produce graphs and the likes. You will need various packages for those that will look at those areas later stage. So you need to know your packages, and yeah, if you're using PyCharm, it's very easy to install a package. You can just come at this section. Then you search a package that you want. Here it shows the package that I have already installed, but then you can search any other packages from here. Then you install the packages using this PyCharm IDE. So basically here on my Python script, everything that has a hashtag is a comment. So basically, when using Python, everything that starts with hashtag, the interpreter does not read those because they are. So basically, when using Python, everything that starts with hashtag, the interpreter does not read those because they are regarded as comments. They are not a part of the main code that the interpreter will try to work with, alright. So basically variables here we are saying this assigns the value 10 into a variable x. So here we are declaring x as a variable that will contain the value 10. Alright, so then here we have another variable which you can create using another variable. And another number. So here we are inserting like x plus 5 into the variable y you see. So it will take whatever is in x and then add 5. Then it's store in y. So and it's not only the numbers that we can store in, we can do the same as value on strings, like I can assign the name Charlie to a variable name and etc. And basically does not end on just numbers and strings. You can then as well use variables to store very huge datasets or to store lists or arrays of data. But just for showing you how it works, of course one by one, and then you will see what should be happening. Okay, so if I run this line x is equal to 10. It just assigns 10 into the variable x. So this is the Python console that comes down here. So any results that you will print will be displayed down here on the console. Okay, so right now it's just assigned the value 10 into the variable x and it doesn't print anything because there is no anything to output. Okay, so Python will output something when you ask it to print, so that's where you see the print function where we are going. Alright, so let's go on and run this. And we found that in here when you run print x, you will see what happens. It will print x is equal to 10. So when you print x, it will print the value that is stored in x, that is 10. Then when you print y, it will give you 15, which means it has taken the 10 that is in x and then add 5. That will give you a 15, so basically it works well with numbers. You can use it as your calculator or something like that. Python is so good with those. Then let's see when we assign these strings into our variables. Name is called Charlie, surname is called Harper. So when you print name plus surname, it will print Charlie Harper. You see? Yeah. And you also have to take note of quotes I've put here with the space. That's how it's going to space the Charlie and the Harper. If you do not put that, then it certainly will not leave a space between the name and the surname. So maybe after this you can try to run this again and you see if you don't put the space, then it's not gonna separate between the name and the surname. So that's an important thing you also need to know when you are working with Python. Next thing we are going to look at here are data types. So you will need to understand the data types that you're working with in Python, doing your calculations, or doing anything you will be doing. You need to know the types of data you are dealing with and how they work. Alright. So a data type, we are saying, is a category of values that have certain characteristic behaviors, and we have integers as data type in Python, so these are simply whole numbers. Then we have strings. So strings, these are words, and usually in Python when you use strings you are going to use the quotes to denote that this is a string, and when Python wants to tell you it is a string, it also puts quotes on the data. Okay. Then we have lists. So list, it will be a collection of values. Then we also have the dictionary. So this one is an ordered collections of key value pairs separated by colons. For example, this one you can put name and the age etc. going on like that. And to check the data type of a value or variable in Python, you can use the type function, then you insert the name of the variable or the value inside the brackets. Then Python will give you the data type of that value. Then you might also find that there are a lot of some other important data types that I have left here. You can find the likes of tuples and sets. They are useful when you are dealing with the datasets etc. They will be useful, but then I just did not include them here. But then you will also get to know them as we go on and deeper with Python. Alright, so to just express briefly how data types work, let's move to our PyCharm here. And then look at data types here. Yeah. Alright. So you are saying if you want to check the data type of the value, let's say 10.26 here, we just say type and then write our 10.26 in the brackets. So when we run this line, and we will see, it will tell us this is float data type. Alright. So when the class float is just simply telling you that whatever is in the process is float data type. Okay. So you can also change the data type of variable, for example other x, which we created earlier. We can then as well check the data type of that variable. So here, it will tell us it's integer. So that means whatever is in the variable x is integer, and if you change the contents of the variable x, maybe you put a string in there, it will change also the data type that is in the variable x. Okay, so that is how the type function works. Alright, so here let's check the string. What Python will tell us is the data type. So ask it to tell us, type hello, and since hello is in quotes, as we said that our strings are denoted by the quotes. So Python will then realize this is in quotes, so it's string data type, and if you do not put it in quotes, then Python will try to assume it's a variable, and if the variable has not been assigned anything before, then it should give you an error that this object is unknown. Okay, so whenever you want to use a variable, make sure you input something in the variable first, then maybe you can reference the variable, or maybe then you put whatever the name in quotes you know that Then what we can also do on the data types is to convert from one data type to another. Okay, so here when you want to convert to a certain data type, for example, we want to convert like the string 123. We said that if it is in quotes then it's a string, so you can convert the string 123 to integer by saying int, then you input the string 123 inside the quotes. So maybe we can run this. That will convert a string 123 into a number 123. So the fact that it comes here without quotes, it shows that now this is a number. Alright, then maybe we can also convert this number 123 to string. Alright, so if we run this following line here, it will convert the integer 123 into a string. So here it produces this one with quotes, mean that it has converted it into a string, but note that this is only possible for values like this that can be integers as well as strings. But if you try to convert something like a name into an integer, then unfortunately you might get an error. Okay, for example, let's say here you wanted to convert something like let's input. And say. Yeah, we can say we want to convert Charlie. We want to convert Charlie into integer, so you will see that when we run this line we will get an error. So this is what an error would look like here in Python, because you cannot convert the name Charlie into an integer. Alright, Python has no way to do that. And that will give you an error. So you cannot convert something like that into integer, but you can convert an integer to be recognized as a string. Okay, so let's move on here. We can also convert like Boolean values into integers. So here, it will be like a true will be a 1 and a false will be a 0, alright. But then what Python will also do is it will recognize like anything else that is not a 0 as true. Alright, but if you ask it to convert a true into an integer, it will give you a 1, but anything else if you convert like a 5 into Boolean, it will give you a true. Because it's not 0, so a 0 is what it will recognize as a false here. Let's say we want to convert the Boolean true into integer, it will give you a 1 here. Then you can as well convert a 1 into Boolean and that will give you a true. Okay, so to convert to Boolean you use this bool, to convert to integer you use int, then you put whatever in the brackets. To convert to string you use str, you put whatever you want to convert to string in the brackets like that. Okay, so basically that is it on the data types, but then you always realize more and more as you go deeper with Python, alright. But for the basics, that's enough. And then the next we are going to look. Alright. So what basically operators we're saying these are characters that just perform operations on values or our variables. Okay, so the main operators we're going to look at, we have arithmetic operators. These perform the mathematical operations like adding, subtraction, multiplication, division, exponentiation. This one is the power. And you want to say like 2 to the power 4 or something. This is the exponent that you use. Then we have the modulo. The modulo gives the remainder when you divide. Whatever the remainder is, it is what the modulo gives, and then the floor division. It divides and rounds down the answer, alright, just round down to the integer that is below whatever the answer it is. Okay, so let's look at these numeric operators here in Python. How they simply work. So I'm just going to run these lines of code, so that you can see how you can use them in Python, but this is basically the simplest you can do in Python. You can say 2 plus 2, it adds, 5 minus whatever, it just does the simple math, but then you then also use these on your variables like we have seen earlier when we said like y is called x plus 2. That's how the operators work, like you can do these simple math operations with these main operators here. Maybe you may then go on and find like 1 or 2 other operators that will do the upper division, that will round up, etc. But for your introduction, I am sure this is quite enough to know that when you want to exponentiate, you will use the double multiplication or the double stars, etc. So basically this is the arithmetic. Then next we are going to look at comparison operators, alright. So what comparison operators basically do is it compares whatever you gives it and says this is true or this is false. Okay. So we have the equal to, the not equal to, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, like that, okay. So what you just do is if you say you can use it to compare like you don't know what is in X, you don't know what is in Y, or you just want it to do something if whatever is in X is equal to whatever is in Y. So you can ask it X is equal to Y, then you see it gives you true or false, then you know. Yeah, I am sure this will be very useful when you write your functions or your long programs. Of course you find this useful, so let's just see how this works here in Python. So comparison operators, these are going to give me like a Boolean result. If 2 is equal to 2 here, we know that that is true. So if I run that code, it's going to give me a true, then 5 not equal to 5, it gives me a false because we know that 5 is equal to 5. So if you tell it 5 is not equal 5, no, that is false. Okay, then 10 less than 89, you can see that's going to give us a true. But the next 10 greater than 89, that is definitely a false, etc. So these are very simple and we cannot spend most of our time explaining this, so these are basically the comparison operators. You will also be using them more and more as you use your Python. Okay, so the next we have logical operators. These combine two or more Boolean values and return another Boolean variable. So we have the AND logic, the OR logic and the NOT logic. Alright, so basically what the AND logic does is if both of the inputs are true. If both the values that you are combining are true, then it gives you a true. And if one of those is not true, then it gives you a false. Then the OR just wants only one of the values you're comparing to be true. If one is true, then it gives you true. If both are true, it gives you a true, and then if none are true, that's when it gives you false. Okay, so basically these are the logics, and then the NOT, it just takes the opposite of whatever you give it. If you give it something that is true, it will give you a false, give you some other false, it will give you a true. So it just flips and gives you the other way around. So maybe you can see how these logic operators here work. So here we have two conditions, 5 not equal 5 and 2 equal to 2. So here you can see 2 is equal to 2 is true, but 5 not equal to 5 is false as we have seen earlier. So if we run this code, we are going to get a false because only one is true and not both of them, but the AND logic wants both of these to be true, okay. So if we run this, we get a false. And then if you put the same thing at the OR logic, the OR simply wants one of the two constraints to be true, and here we have seen that this one is true, but the other one is not. This one gives us true, so the whole statement will give us a true because at least one is correct. So if we run this, we get a true. Then the NOT logic, whatever you give it, it gives the opposite. So if you say not true, it will give you a false, alright. So it just flips the true to a false, then gives you the result. So basically these are the logic operators, and you can then make use of them in combining your statements and making some decisions from there based on whether true or if one is true or not, etc. So next we are looking at assignment operators. So these ones, we are saying we just use it to assign a value into some variable, etc. So basically the standard is an equal sign. It just inputs whatever you want to input into a variable, but then if you want to input something and perform an operation at the same time, then you can use these other ones. The add in the sign, subtract and assign, multiply and assign, divide and assign. So we are just combining the arithmetic operators and the symbol assignment operator, the equals to. Okay, so we have the exponentiate and assign, the modulo and assign. So how these other work is that if you are using the add and assign, okay, I will show this in the IDE how this work when you want to add and assign at the same time. That is just the shortest and simplest way you can use. So the assignment operators A equals 5, the simplest, and we have been using it before. I'm sure you know all these things. Just inputs 5 into the variable A, okay, so maybe we can run this. It inputs 5, then if you say print A, it prints the 5 that you've input in A. So when you want to use the add and assign operator right now here, you can use a plus equal to 4. So what this will do, it will add the 4 to whatever is stored in the variable and then store the new result, like the total after adding whatever stored in A and what you are adding. So we are saying our A had a 5, so if we say plus equal to 4, we are adding the 4 to the 5 that is already stored in the A, in the variable A. Then after adding we store the total that will be a 9 into the variable a, or alternatively, that's where we are saying you can say a is equal to a plus 4, so this a will be the new a, the new result of adding the previously stored value in a with a 4. Okay, so this is the add and assign how it works. Okay. So here, if we run this, the a plus equal to 4 and then we print the new value of 8 will give us a 9 here because it has added a 4 and assigned the new total into the variable. So this will be different than just saying a is equal to 4. This statement, if you do not say a plus equal to 4 and simply say a is equal to 4, it will replace whatever is stored in a. So here, if you say a is equal to 4, it will replace the 5 stored in a and just give us a 4. Okay. Yeah. So let's say here I don't say a plus is equal to 4, I just come and say a is equal to 4 and I run this and then print a. It will give us a 4, yeah, because it's not adding but it's just replacing, so it will replace the 5 that have been stored in a. Okay, so in the rest of these, they basically work in the same way. When you say a minus is equal to 5, it will subtract 5 from whatever is stored in a and then store the new result in the variable a. Okay, so maybe I'll just run down these commands and you will see the results as we go. So yeah. Okay, what happened here? Our a was 4 and then we ran again the command a plus is equal to 4, so we added 4 to the 4 that already stored to give us an 8. Then if we subtract 5 and run, and that's where we get a 3, and then we go on. If you say a multiply is equal to 2, then we are saying we are multiplying the 3 that we got here by 2 and then showing the new value. So we are going to get a 6 there. I hope this is clear. Are we still together? I hope so. So basically you can then see how the rest of it works. You just use the operator first, then assign the new result into the variable. Okay. So that's how they should be working here, etc. So basically that's the assignment operators. Then moving next, we are going to look at the membership operators. Okay, how the membership operators work is just checking if something is in a set or in a variable or wherever you just want to check that is this thing in there, then it will give you a true or false if it is in there or not. Okay, so you can use the in operator saying that A is in the set of alphabets. Then it will give you a true as it is in the set of alphabet, but then maybe when you say G is in the set of vowels, then it gives you something like a no, G is not in the set of vowels, okay, something like that. So these are the membership operators. So maybe here we can get into Python and run 2 or 3 lines of the membership operators and see how they work. So here we are assigning these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 into a list, b is equal to whatever. So this is a list. And you should know that when you see the square brackets, it is a list. Alright, then maybe the curly brackets will represent a tuple and the other ones it will be the set or something like that going on. Alright, so here we just want to check is 2 in the list of numbers that is represented by the variable b. So to just check that, that's where we use the membership operator. Okay, so here first of all, you assign the list into a variable b, then you can then run 2 in b and it gives us true because 2 is right in the list. Then maybe we can say 10 not in b. So this one is going to give us a true as well because 10 is not found in b. But then maybe if you had said here 10 in b and run the statement, that will give us a false because 10 is not in the list are contained within b. Okay, so basically these are the membership operators. Then we can move on to statements. So basically statements. We are adjusting these lines of code that you write in Python. So like what you've been doing, all those lines of code that I've been using to demonstrate, we can take those as statements. But some of them can be blocks of code like that are run together. And so these are just lines of code that we're saying they are telling Python to do something. Okay. So when you say do this, add this, code this function, all those are what we call statements. They are just lines of code basically. So basically whatever you write in your IDE, those will be statements. Okay, so for example, we can take the print function, it can be a statement, and it is telling our Python to print this, to print out whatever is in the variable x. Then you can say import math and another statement which can be used to import the module math, which contains a lot of useful maths functions that can be useful. Then you can then look at this math.sqrtx, which, so basically what this one is, .sqrt is a function found in the module math, so you can only access it when you've called the module math, and then this will give you like the square root of a number. Then the next thing we're going to look at here are functions. So what's a function? A function definitely is a block of code that performs a specific task, and you can then call this a number of times. So if you have something that you think can work, or you might want to use a number of times, you can just write it as a function. Then whenever you want to use those statements, you do not rewrite them because they'll make your code too long and congested. So you can just write it once as a function. Then whenever you want to use those statements, you can just call the function. Using just a single line that will call like, well, whatever the number of lines in the function that you have to find, so you can call like thousands of lines using a single line. So that will be a function. So basically that's how a function works. You define a function, it just returns the results when you call it, okay. So basically, Python has a lot of built-in functions that it comes with, and a lot of the modules Python already have, but then you can also define your own custom functions that do exactly what you would want to do and then reuse them thereafter, okay. So the key thing to know about functions is when you write a function, you just have to make sure that it returns the result, because when a function is called, it will have to return a result. Otherwise, if you don't tell it to return something, then the function will not return anything and it will not be very much useful. So these are just files that contains blocks of codes for functions, classes, variables that have already been written. And then you can just use this to call them and use them. It will make like your code simpler and easy since you don't have to write a lot of statements, commands, rather you just call one that has already been written and just use it to manipulate your data. Okay, so getting into Python we're just going to look at statements, functions and the modules all at once, yes. So the statement print x, we have seen how this works, just prints whatever is in the variable x, then import. This will import the module math, and then after running the statement you can then call any function from within the module math, but then you will realize if you call a function that is contained within the module math without calling the module first or without importing the module first, then the function is not going to work because we have to import the module first. Okay. And then so other statements you can look at here is the length function, which gives you like the number of characters, whatever that you want the length of is. So if you say length hello, it will give you the number of characters the word hello has. Then we can then here look at the statement that uses a function from the math module. So here, we've seen that we've been importing the math module. So after importing the math module, we can then use or we can then run this command math.sqrt because the sqrt function is found in the math module. Okay, so when you run, oh, it's giving me an error. Let's see what's the value in x. If we run this, we say print x, it's not printing. What did we last store in x? What is the value of x here? Let's see. X was equal to 10. Let's run this. X is equal to 10. Okay, so if we say x is equal to 10 and here we input. Let's see. Okay. We were here and we import the math module. We import math and then we say math.sqrtx, alright, so maybe yeah. The x had lost its value. I don't know how did it lose the 10 that it has been assigned to earlier. But then here math.sqrt give you the square root of x, alright. But then you realized that if you did not import the math module, then it's not going to realize this command here. It will give you an error. So you definitely have to import the math module for whatever the function that you would want to call here. So here we have to import the module. Okay, so moving on. We now look at functions. So functions, like we said, these are just lines of code that you can refer a lot of times later on. So we have just defined the small function that receives two numbers and then adds the two numbers, then returns the result of the sum of the two numbers. Okay. So, let's just run this and see what we get here. So here, if we run the function. So now our Python is our function, and whenever we call the add function, then it will call this function and return the sum. Okay, so let's run the statement. Here z is equal to add 2 and 3. So here what this one will do here, it will input this 2 into y here, then this 3 into x here. Okay, Then after that it does this addition here that function does, then returns the sum. Okay, so what will be in z is the sum of these two numbers. So when we proceed to, say, print z, okay, it gives us an error. Alright, let's see. Let's redo this. We input the function, then we say it is equal to add 2, 3. Then we say print z. Then it's equal to 5. Yeah, because 2 plus 3, yeah, you get a 5. So basically that's what the function does. And the good thing about it is you can call it as many times as possible. Here, maybe I can say add 5 and 89, okay, so this basically calls the add function again, and when we run this it will say 89 plus 5, and we get 94. Alright, so it's very useful when your function has a number of lines of code, so you don't have to rewrite the function every time you need whatever. Okay. So next, let's see how another function here works on strings. So this one, the hello function. So this here is the name of the function. So this is what you just reference whenever you want to call the function. You just use this name here and you input whatever that will be input on the variable that is inside the brackets for the function. Okay, so here the hello will print a hello plus the name that you have inputted. So let's run these functions and see what we get. So yeah, now we have the function. Then when we say hello, then it calls the hello function and it inputs Alice where there is a name. So it will say hello Alice, because here it will be hello plus whatever the name and then the exclamation mark it had. That will give us that result over there, okay. And it will just do the same for the rest, for Bob and for Charlie. So basically these are some basic functions that you can know how functions work, but usually they are more useful and they have more lines of code that will be tiresome to rewrite again, so you just reference where they are written or write. Then modules. Modules, I think we have spoken about these. So the good thing about these things here, they just interlink. So you find out when you want to talk about this, we might have talked about it somewhere before so. So yeah, but yeah, in my script I have been using the math module, but there are a lot of other modules that you find in Python and you find them useful depending on what you want to do basically. But when you are going to make calculations, you definitely make use of the math module a lot of times. So here besides this, the sqrt function which gives us the square root, in the math module you can also find the pi function which just gives you the value for pi, alright. So and since we have imported this module before, it might not be necessary to import it again. So basically when you import these modules and packages, you just write them at the top of your code. Like in the universe, that's where you call all the modules and the packages that you will be using below. So here you will know you won't need to call the modules again. You will just be using the functions because the modules have already been called, okay. So let's just run this here and see what we get. Pi, that's the value for pi, then sqrt16 we get 4. So basically these are the basics that you need to know, and then on our next video we will be looking at more deeper concepts starting with the data science, like working with data sets, producing graphs and a lot of the methods that you can use in data science and statistics. Then we can look at how we go through that in Python then, and this will be a series of videos where we'll look at the data science, software development and web development. Okay. So just hope you will be back for the next set of videos. Thank you very much for watching and hope this was helpful.